Man, so I'm on here today with Kim Neuhaus and Robin Weier and our friends, the Thompsons, checking in from Texas. Nice little bit of heat down there, but definitely a lot of fun. And I actually broke out an old camp shirt I had, Reese's Jesus. I'm sure some of my old friends will appreciate
Nice.
that for today's session as we just get a chance to talk. And really, I'm looking forward to finding out some perspectives. The 2018 theme was Pursuit of Holiness. And, I think just really quick, starting off, Kim, what favorite camp memory? I mean, think through from either growing up or, from being a part of way of life, what's some of your favorite memories?
Well, I did not even go to camp growing up. So,
And
that is
you
something
handle camp well then.
that is something that I missed out on. My parents tried to encourage me to go, but I didn't care to. So Gene always reminds me of that. He's like, "You missed out on so much as a kid." I said, "Yes, I'm sure that I did." So now I get to relive all that with you all. So
That's
it's
right.
been one.
So everything is a new experience then.
Yeah, and that question, because there are so many camp memories, but I would have to say the most ones that I enjoy is when I have seen my kids grow up
Yeah.
there, and I have been a counselor at the same time as they have been there. Watching them interact, watching them talk,
Right.
in classes or et cetera, so, I'd have to say just watching them grow,
And
being
you
at
go back and I don't know if you got a chance to watch some of those videos, but just seeing
yes,
Caleb grow up, and now he's a college graduate, right?
yeah,
Man, yeah,
yeah,
it's and then of course,
and getting married.
yeah, that's all kinds of fun. Yeah, so
Yes.
definitely, and that'll bring me to another question to you here in a little bit. But Robin, obviously multiple years of camping experiences from multiple weeks, and share with our camp family a couple of your favorite memories.
Yeah. I started camp in 1972 when I was a middle schooler, and then became a director when I was in college, like at 22. I remember when when Caleb and his little gang came to camp as 8 or 9-year-olds. I
Yep,
remember their baseball hats. They all had baseball hats, and they were all in the little club.
they did. They brought their gloves. They
They
get
brought
to
their
BP.
gloves. They wanted to play. They were not real impressed with our fancy ball field, though.
True.
But, I have lots of memories as well of just classes and different things that are at Northwestern. We used to do calisthenics in the morning.
Yeah.
So everybody would get up, we'd go to the fire circle, then we'd go to the flag pole and do calisthenics. And this was one of the favorite calisthenics we did. You able to hear it? Yeah, there you go. But we used to do that all the time, and those were the hard calisthenics that we used to do to wake people up and have a little bit of fun in the morning. And
Isn't that your alarm clock still?
that's right. Especially in the head to wake me up. But yeah, that's some memories, and I have some great memories of. I posted a picture this last week of a bunch of people that were on staff one week that had all grew up going to my week of camp. Now most of them are either on the director staff here or teachers are doing some really cool things. So that was a very special picture. So camp is my favorite place. It's my favorite time of the year, and when we made the decision, it was tough stuff for me. I had 2 days of just real grieving, just trying to figure that out. But we've done some things with the mids and some other groups this week and trying to reach out, and that's been fun. Even though it's through this, we've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I love just the memories of the songs, the worships, the times together when we were all together, and just one of the special times was around the pool. And then your dad was actually giving the conversation, and he was sitting on the diving board.
Yeah.
all of us, we completely lined that pool, and you were really small.
That's probably 5. I remember that. Yeah.
And your dad just talking, and I want to say that you at some point went up to the diving board to sit up there with him, but that may not be true. But I just remember just some of those great times, and just some great years at camp, just some great memories and a great legacy that we've got going on. So
for sure, yeah, and that I think kind of connects with the next question. What's it like, Kim, kind of serving on staff with your family?
Well, it also goes back to the first question because, watching Leah and Caleb grow at camp and then watching them come back as counselors, and then being there with us. I think one year, and it might have been, was a couple years ago, all 4 of us were there at the same time, Jean and the kids. And, that was just awesome. Just all 4 of us being able to be there together, to share together, to witness, each other and how they interacted and were involved with, their campers and leading them. So it's just a neat feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that was on a picture of that was either on something I was going through or one of the slideshows of, you guys just you could see the joy as a mom, like in that photo that just kind of shine through of like, hey, you're just trying to savor that moment. And, I think all of us have those experiences at camp where whether or not it's, as Robin mentioned before in a previous, message, a sunset at the beach, or you're just seeing kids playing, those moments you try and capture and hold on to. What about you, Robin? You brought Diane into the fun, and he said, hey, you're coming with me.
Absolutely. That was a requirement in the prenup. But before that, I was able to bring my mom to cook in the kitchen at Northwestern.
Great example, yeah.
Loved that. She loved that and made friends with all those people, and they're still all friends today. But Diane, I always wanted Diane to come, but when we first were married, she had started a new job, wasn't able to come, and as soon as she was able to get the 2 weeks of vacation, then she started coming, and she loves being there. She loves being there. We like serving together, and it's a great thing. Great thing.
That's good stuff. Yeah. You're a fellow preparer of crafts. Like, what's your favorite craft you've ever done, Robin?
I'm not a craft person.
You just like providing that.
You do a great job, though, with all your crafts, though.
But I knew when we were at Northwestern, kids love those crafts. They love to do the cool things that Donna and Marcia and all those guys used to do. And so I wanted to bring that. The tie-dyes are so much fun because you can see their creativity.
Yeah.
Last year we did those Hodge Paws or Maj Paws, whatever they're called. And they made these different plaques with different things. So I just think it's awesome to see their creativity. I like to be the supplier of all that.
There you go.
I don't have a creative bone in my body, but I know what looks good and what kids like, and so I try to do that, and they have a good time with it.
So how many bins do you have at your house just full of camp crafts? That's a great. I'm sure that is quite interesting.
It's a bone of contention. House, there's probably 8, but at the church building in the attic, there are no less than 20.
Oh my gosh. That's epic.
Plus we got bins of 50s night, Mexican sports night, got all of that crazy stuff.
All kinds of fun. Yeah, for sure. I was always amazed the decoration and the crafts and all the things. That's why you had to continue to get trailers to come to camp every year.
That's right.
So kind of jumping into this idea, pursuit of holiness. I want to start with that first word, pursuit, and maybe Kim. I think of that word. There's so many like movie scenes that come up with that word pursuit, like these epic pursuits. Talk to us about an epic pursuit or some type of pursuit that you've had to do. I think, either that's, trying to get that one toy that you never can find, or, of course, maybe chasing after a kid that's running away, all those things.
Well, mine isn't so much a physical pursuit, I think. Well, it is, but not so much running for the pursuit. So I hope Caleb doesn't mind me sharing a story about him, but when he was a kid, he had this rabbit, and it was one of those where you'd pull it up and it'd make music, and then it would squish back together again. Like the whole body would just be one long body. And he attached himself to that. And it had a ring on the end. Well, he got to where he would follow around, and he'd have it on his finger with this ring. Well, when we had moved away to another state, we had went away for the weekend, and I said to him, I said, son, you may want to leave that on the bed.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't want to take it where we're going, because what if it gets lost, or what if we forget it at the hotel?
Yep.
And we came back home, and that rabbit was nowhere to be found. So I would have to say we were in pursuit for I don't know how many days trying to find that rabbit. I mean, it just made no sense, but our pursuit was all over the house, looking all in the closets, looking under the beds, you name it. We were in pursuit, and we never did find it. So it's just one of those things where it just didn't make any sense.
I think every family has that story where, like, the parents go through and warn them, hey, don't take this. Like, that's not a great idea. The kid's like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm in a good spot. And then here you go at the end of the trip. And you don't want to say, I told you so, but, like, you definitely want to say it. It's like, I told you not to take that. Come on.
Well, he said he didn't, and I didn't see it. So that's the thing that's strange. We knew that it was left at the house. We thought it was. So
maybe Leah has it at her house right now.
I'm sorry?
So maybe Leah has it right now.
Oh.
That's what would happen with my kids.
Never know.
So a little trick. Robin, how about you, Mud? What about a pursuit?
I was thinking about when I think of pursuit, I think about chasing after. So literally chasing, riding after. And I've always my camps have always been important to me. And I've always I grew up, and through college, I was doing the Young Life stuff. And through Young Life, I just felt like they were the best. They just did the best at stuff. And so I was trying to chase after that to provide those activities and those moments for our campers and our kids. And I always felt like I always wanted it to be a little better, a little more, but the relationships were the main piece of it for me.
Yeah.
And that's what Young Life, I really felt that's what Young Life was all about, quality and then relationships. And to me, I felt like that's what I pursued, was relationships with as many people and as deep as I could go with as many people as possible. And that's something that's very important to me. I don't want to just somebody to say hi to me. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know, how things are going. So chasing after, and sometimes you're chasing after something that doesn't want to be chased, and I don't care.
Yeah. And I think part of that, don't you think that gets down to the nature of people, is like all of us have this, kind of inner desire to connect with others, right? And there's, through life experiences, a lot of times maybe there's some type of block or some type of, thing that causes you to be hesitant, to be vulnerable, to allow for connection. And I think it's that ongoing pursuit. And for us as staff members, or us as parents, or us as, family members or church leaders, trying to continue to have our individuals remain in that pursuit, to stay motivated, to, continue to, kind of chase after that, and maybe connecting that, then, there's that motivation in the background of a story looking for a toy. There's a motivation in the background of chasing after relationships, of support, and really helping build others up. Like, when someone were to ask you, like, what is your motivation to pursue holiness? Like, how would you answer that question?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, scripture comes to mind, Hebrews 12:14. And it states, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. And that is just a strong piece of advice right there. And I don't think this is a coincidence either, Josh, because when I was, thinking about today, with that scripture, well, I don't know, some of you may have a Bible app, a lot of us have the smartphones and have the Bible app. That is the scripture that came up today on the Bible app. That's
awesome.
I don't think that was a coincidence.
No.
At all. But, that is just, scripture that speaks to me. And also, I think about the scripture, 1 Corinthians 13:11, where it talks about, when I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child, but when I came a man, I put those childish things behind me, and for me, I'm not a child anymore, so, that's the difference with, we need to be led to reverence for Christ, and, we're no longer children, we're no longer innocent. And, but when we understand sin, then that's when it's time to start trying to understand holiness. And so for me, I try and be obedient to him, that's how I try and continue to be in the pursuit of holiness. So being obedient to him, my relationship with him, my relationship with others, like Robin was saying, I mean, that's so important, because I think that all ties together, how I treat others, seek out those relationships, accountability. We have people that we want to say, hey, I want you to hold me accountable.
Right.
And I know that that's one thing with a relationship as husband and wife, that's one thing that's, to me, is very important, because that's one way that I can seek, with it to be holy is, when I have Gene looking at me, and he holds me accountable, keeps me on the straight and narrow, so
yeah,
those are just a few of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think, in terms of that motivation and, really kind of driving force of staying connected to that scripture. But then, as you were talking, I was just thinking about, moving from that spiritual milk to that spiritual meat, getting that, how do you have that develop, and even connecting that back to what Robin was sharing earlier about his inner desire to always try and make the next year of camp even better, and now that personal connection is, embedded into that as well. Robin, what do you think, that motivation, what motivates you to pursue holiness?
I like that verse Kim shared as well. And another piece of that verse is, as far as it depends on you, be at peace with everyone. And I think sometimes that's a very difficult thing, because I may want peace and somebody else, I just got to do all I can do. And I think that's that chasing, that pursuit of trying to be at peace. I'm not going to make everybody happy. I kind of gave that up a long time ago. I don't try to make people happy. I just want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing at the right time with the right people. And that's important to me. One of the things of the week about holiness was obedience. And I thought about it, and especially right now in the times we're living in, about Abraham and Sarah, about their, wanting to have a child. He was 100, she was 90, and, and God just says, just be obedient, just love me, just listen to me, just believe me. Then after they have that child, then God, asks him to sacrifice that child. And Abraham was obedient. He listened. And I can't imagine just the thoughts going through his head of like, God, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But because I love you, I will follow you and I will do what you say. So obedience to me is a huge issue with holiness, because holiness cannot be an act, or it cannot be a attitude. It has to be an action. It has to be actions. I was looking at John 14:15. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I think that's part of showing our love to God. Part of our holiness is doing what he wants us to do, obeying his commandments, living for him each day, no matter how crazy it may seem. Like for Abraham and Sarah, no matter how crazy it is, 100 years and 90 years old, having a child, God will make that happen if he wants to make that happen, if you listen and your faith is in him. So.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's that, and in some ways that, connects back to that swimming upstream theme, where this is very countercultural in terms of this teaching of obedience. And, I think in some ways, like, the strength of America is our ability to like make independent and this independence, but then at the same time, it also comes at a price of, how do you live within community, and this idea of obedience and sharing that example as well.
Part of the other piece of that is from Romans 12:1-2. Those are the first verses I ever memorized, besides John 3:16 and Jesus. But it's therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercies, offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship. And do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Us being a sacrifice to God and just giving it up to him and doing whatever he wants us to do. And that's another choice to make, and it's another it's staying away from the world, from the pattern of the world, but keeping your eyes on him.
Yeah, that's great context. I think even just coming back through, and you take this church word, right, holiness, like what does that even mean? And so maybe applying some of that scripture, how would you guys describe that word holiness to others?
To be set apart for God.
There we go. Thank you, Brianna.
It's the literal definition of the word.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
separation from what is unclean.
Yeah. And for God. I think that was a great part, Brianna. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just think of some of the examples of where things are set apart. Like, what does that look like? You think about, yesterday we had I grilled some sweet salmon, cedar plank salmon, right?
Yum.
So good. Put some butter on there, but even when you think about cuts of meat that are set apart, or things that are, kind of taken out and put into another level, right? And so I think even that process is trying to have that swimming upstream theme, that idea of that imagery of hey, I'm purposely choosing to live this way in obedience, outside of the countercultural, to live the way that God has asked us to live.
My grandparents had a living room where the chairs were covered with plastic. You weren't allowed in there, only on special occasions. And there was never any food. And you could do anything in that whole house except for that one room. And it was like the holy of holies. You went in and you had to wash your hands. You couldn't touch anything. And when we got to go in there for something special, it was always kind of a really, really cool time. And as we got older, we realized, yes, that was nice furniture, but it was just special. It was something my grandparents had worked very hard for, and they wanted to keep it good. They didn't want the dog on it. They didn't want the kids playing on it. And I always thought about that. They kept that separated and apart.
I think all of us had a friend that had that one room where if you went in and moved the carpet an inch, like their parents would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about, how would you describe holiness to a teenager?
Well, I think holiness, the difference with holiness too is, it means maturity. I think that once we mature, I think we really can understand what holiness is about. Some people act mature because their parents tell them to act that way. But, we want people to, or I want, myself, I want to be mature because that shows my respect for God, and I think that we reach a point in our life where, we stop acting silly, we start acting mature. And I think as we grow, especially with teenagers, they get out of that stage of being silliness to where they're starting to mature. And I think that's a lot of how they can understand what the difference is, and where their holiness starts to apply to their life.
Yeah, I think one thing, go ahead, Robin, it looks like you were going to talk.
What she reminded me of was the word integrity. After maturity is integrity. It's not holiness because of your parents. It's because it's who you are when nobody else is looking. And I think that's the maturity. That's how we grow. And when we grow, we become that way. But it's a pursuit. It never stops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can never stop pursuing God and pursuing holiness because we'll never get it. We'll never get it right, completely right.
And yeah, I think one thing as I helped kind of craft that curriculum that year was just really trying to center on the point of like, what is that true motivation of why you pursue holiness? And it's really out of what we tried to do in the questioning that year was convey that it's all within the confines of relationship. Like the reason you want to be better is because of your love for God, not because you want to be a rule follower, right? And so really developing that relationship and in terms of, the honoring, the reason you want to be, pursuing holiness is out of the confines of, hey, I want to be like Jesus. I want to be, do the things that he has done and live that way. And just like Robin said, like that is a lifelong process that's not going to be made complete, until the very end. Right. But it's out of that, that true, I think when you think about a way of life, doing the right thing to follow a rule is not very motivating, even with kids. But when you talk about the why, when, even as a middle school principal, when, I don't just talk about here's the rules, follow them, but you talk about the why and help people understand the why, and allows for them to have that connection. And I think it's within the confines of relationship that all of these things have always been God's focus, is to allow for that connection. So even as we wrap up today, like what are some practical ways you would encourage our youth, encourage maybe a camper that has graduated college and is ready to move on to the next part of their life, or even some family member that just is going to like this and share this, how would you encourage them in practical ways to pursue holiness?
Well, I know that we've talked about it before, in this session, but I think just seeking out those relationships, seeking out those people that hold you accountable, that helps you grow, that helps you with your walk with Christ. I think that's very important, and just surround yourselves with those type of people, that has that love for God.
Yeah, if I'm going to have someone like proofread an email, why would I not want to have someone proofread my actions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Exactly.
give me feedback on, hey, what are some of the things that how I can improve in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Going right along with what Kim said is Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Put him first, seek him first, keep him in our minds, keep him in our hearts, and seek his way first, being obedient to him, like we said from John earlier, he's going to bless us and he's going to guide us. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be, camp all the time? No. But he's there and he guides us, loves us, and will look after us. And I think so we have to remember, it's a pursuit, it's a chase, it's a seeking him, and it's not just sitting on your butt waiting for things to happen. It's actually seeking and looking.
Seeking him and to be like him.
That's what's important.
Right.
Wanting to be like him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and, obviously those practices, the prayer and Bible and, and then all within the confines of relationship and, asking, some of those character checks, right? Some of, when you think about integrity, what are you choosing to do when no one's watching, right? Who are you choosing to be? And then in addition to that, like, how are you also, helping to do that for others, seeking out the relationships that you can provide that mutual support. But ultimately, we're trying to do these things to please God and to honor him and, to develop and have a better perspective with him as well. So maybe as we close today, final thoughts for the campers out there, maybe final wishes, things you want to share with them.
Well, I just, I'm saddened, that we can't be together this year. I miss everyone. I mean, it's been great being able to see you all today and you actually see your faces and be able to talk with you. And it's not the same as not being there for sure. But my advice would be, if you still have, those lovegrams, this week, read through those lovegrams that you've received, try and find some of the addresses of those campers, those friends that you've made along the way at camp. Write a note, just drop them a line, letting them know how much that, you miss them. Because I think that means a lot, just letting them know that, hey, I'm thinking about you. I miss you. I can't wait until next summer, that we can see each other again. So just some way of encouragement.
Thank you. Robin?
Yeah, just reach out. I mean, you got phones, you've got email, you got all kinds of things to be connected. So just reach out. And I would say reach out to your counselors too, that you've appreciated over the years. Every once in a while, I get some nice notes of saying, hey, I remember this. Hey, you challenged me with this. Sometimes on Father's Day, and we have no children, but sometimes on Father's Day, I get notes from different people who say, hey, you were a spiritual dad to me, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to let you know. And that's something that really means the world to us, especially me, as I've been in this a long, long time. It's kind of cool to get those notes and get those thoughts. And so between your camper relationships, your staff relationships, it's good to reach out, but it's good to just keep focused too, and find a way to be active in your youth group in your church. And I know here it's a little difficult. We're in, I think Cincinnati is as well. Franklin County is a kind of a epicenter right now, and they're locking down things even more in a lot of ways. So got to do what we can do to reach out and to encourage and to love everybody. So
good stuff. Well, all of our listeners and campers out there, all the individuals connected with Way of Life, we encourage you to continue to pursue holiness and have a good day.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Kim.
Bye. See y'all.